Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to another podcast. And again, apologies, it's been a while. Been a pretty busy year this year, so finding the time to get out has been a little harder. So the last podcast we're doing a bit of streamer fishing, very difficult conditions and blanked, and I'm yet to get out on some really difficult conditions. It's very bright, the river's very low, it's fairly warm, feels very stale on the river at the minute. Really needs a good flush through some water. So I brought the nymphing outfit out. I'm just going to try and run some nymphs down, the Euro nymphing outfit, going to run it down some of the faster, deeper runs, just try and get the flies down in amongst where the fish are likely to be. So I've got a 10-foot free weight nymphing outfit, just mono, no fly line, and then I've got some indicator mono for about, I don't know, a couple of feet, and then 6 foot of fluorocarbon, dropper on, and I've got one of our Euro shrimps on the end, and then one of the new flies that's coming out this year. It's a mini squirmy, so really small squirmy wormy with a tungsten bead. So I'm just going to give that a swim. We've done really well with it in testing, so thought I'd have a bit of a fish with that as well. Grayling love it, so we'll see if we can get a grayling or two. Nice summer grayling. Right, so just going to start tapping this nymphs upstream and see what's what. It's one of those days where it's not particularly pleasant being in the walking across to the river, but once you're in and up to I'm about up to my thighs here, it's really nice place to be. Just going to have the river's about, not very wide here, probably 25 feet, but it's not as fast as I like from a nymph fishing, but it's fairly deep, so I just thought I'd have a few casts here just for a bit of a warm-up. You never know where there's going to be a little bonus fish in here. And then going to have a good wade upstream actually and cover some of the bits that I've not fished for a while, some of the pools up there that are nice and quick. It's a bit slow here really. I'm just going to wade up a couple of feet. There's a couple of rocks in the river here, and you can see how low it is because normally you never see them, but I can see the top of the rock actually popping out the river, so it just shows you how down we are with the water. I'm just going to run the fly off the V, so if you imagine the water hitting the rock, it creates a V, and just in them V channels is sometimes where you get a lionfish. There's a nice bit of current there, and it's obviously bringing the food, sweeping it past the rock and bringing it through, so the fish will often sit just in the V. Always a good spot for a salmon as well, when we're not on here obviously, but when we're salmon fishing, the gillies are often asking you to fish the V's. Keep tapping it up, only just doing short casts really, just fishing under the rod tip. It's been a funny old summer in terms of weather. We've had a bit of rain here over the past few weeks, but there's been the odd inch or two I guess on the gauge extra, but it's soon dropped off. Alright, I'm going to have a wander up some of the quick stuff. It's nice to cool off though. Lovely, legs are nice and cold now. Trying to fish in here we've got lots of kind of long, fast, deep runs that go under the shade as well, under the tree branches, so it's just a case of trying to flick the fly under the trees and just pick off the odd fish. It's typical summer fishing, the odd feeding fish. The grayling, the wild rainbows on here tend to be quite forgiving as well, even when conditions are go against you. I'm just trying to pick off bits, but you know, it's summer fishing, it's takes a bit of work. And felt like a little bump there, or not maybe. The tippet I'm using, which I guess is the key bit, I'm using a quite fine, so 6x fluorocarbon, and the dropper is fairly close to the point because I want both these flies to get down, so it's only about 10 inches above the point fly. Wading's a little bit interesting here. What we've got here is the river's very shallow, and then there's one deep channel, but it's fairly deep and it's fairly hard to get to because you've got trees hanging over the entire channel, so very easy just to flick these flies up and put them in the tree. But it's a glorious day to be out, even though it's not the best fishing conditions. And very green at the minute down by the river. Lots of foliage out, catching all this sunshine. I'll try and get a few just across the river. I've got a little bit of a back eddy here, and there's some old gnarly tree trunks and a very old wall. Must have been at some point put in as a bit of a wall to stop the erosion of the bank, but it's seen a lot better days, all covered in moss and collapsing into the river. A load of old gnarly tree trunks, and then there's a nice kind of back eddy next to it, so just trying to work the fly down the back eddy. Picking up a bit of weed on the point fly from time to time as well. That shows me I'm getting down, which is good. Check the dropper, looks okay. And it's definitely wading stick territory this, so as I'm edging upstream I've got my wading stick in my left hand and it's just sidestepping up the river really, every cast or every couple of casts. And looking up and down the river you can see the sunlight just sparkling, glittering all over the riffles. It really is very bright today. Never going to be easy. Like I say, the smaller grayling or smaller wild rainbows can be a little bit more obliging in these conditions. Oh, that was a take. A good take, missed that. Something just plucked at one of the flies. It was a really sharp pluck. Right, onwards and upwards. There's a nice channel here. We'll just have a few casts in there. You can really see all the gravel bars are exposed on the river now, and you get that kind of smell, almost like a bit like a seaside smell. Kind of there's the weed on the rocks is all drying off. You get that kind of ozony. It's a lovely smell. I really like it. That ozony smell, like when the tide's gone out of the rock pools and the sun shines on it. I'm just working up the river and got the 2 or 3 dippers working away above me on the exposed rocks. And the kingfish has been busy. There's thousands and thousands of grayling fry in the margins at the minute, clouds of them, and the kingfish has been going mad, enjoying picking those off. Right, so we've got like a really fast channel of river here, about 6 foot across, so I'm just going to really work the flies into this fast water and see if there's anything in there. It really is hurtling through here, the river. Really at a great pace. And it's the kind of water a lot of anglers skip across, but it really does hold some fish, especially in summer. Yep, we're in. Oh, feels like a decent fish. Taking some line. Oh yes, trout. Really leapt out the water then. That was a really subtle take, but oh, and another leap. That's putting a really good bend into the rod, that is. That's putting a good old scrap up, this is. It's very fast water as well, so it's that's taken the Euro shrimp. There we are. Come on, you. Oh, come on. Lovely in the net. Super duper, lovely wild brownie. That's probably £1.5. It's a nice fish, especially in this kind of fast water as well. Just let him get his breath back for a second and then keep him in the water. Oh, that was a cracking start. Lovely brown trout. Right in the fast water. It just shows you this time of year, getting into that fast deep water is a really good place to be. Surprised how cool the water is actually. That's, I think, one of the lucky things about where we are. The water stays fairly cool even in this hot weather. It's nice, you know, you're putting your hand in and you can really feel it. Right, I'm going to get back into this run now. That was such a sensitive take. It's just what these rods are built for, but I could just feel almost like a wriggly knock 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 on the end, and it was just a case of lifting, feeling the fish and then following through into the strike, and in the end it was really well hooked. As you can probably hear, the water's really, you can tell how it's thundering through here just by the sound of it on my waders. Alright, I'll get a couple more casts in here and then I think I'll move up again. Right, let's move up river. Right, keep on moving up. I'm just going to have a little dabble in this. There's a little hole here, just next to an overhanging tree. The river gets quite wide and shallow, but there's one little hole over on the left bank, so I'm going to wander across to that and see if there's anything at home in there. Maybe just fish the riffle up towards it as well, just in case. Just tap a few into this fast riffle. Likely to be a grayling in this somewhere. And just see if there's anything going to grab it. It's quite shallow actually, so it's shallow like this. I just fish with the rod a bit higher, so just tap the flies up and just fish with a higher rod. Keep the fly off the bottom. Ooh, felt like a fish. quite often you get a bit of that at this time of year, and you get these little plucks and snaps at the fly, but they don't fully commit to kind of taking it and turning with it. So you just get these little taps and plucks, or kind of, we often call it taking short. You know, they come up to the dry and they look like they're rising to it, but they're not quite committing to the take. Again, just picked up a bit of weed on my point fly, so just nick that off. It's a really pokey little bit, this. It's a quick kind of bendy stream of current, and there's loads of bushes and overhanging branches around it, but you can just imagine a fish. Oh yeah, oh, it's off. So you just imagine a fish sat in there, and I had one on just in the hole. Alright, that's the hole, so one on and off out of there. I've just got to step over a bit of a tree here that's come in at the side of the river. It's all a bit shallow, this, for nymphing. Where I'm just going to walk through it. It's fish is better with a dry or a spider, this. Not going to be much rising today with this sun beating down. There's a little bit of a faster channel here, so I'll have a speculative cast in the channel just as I'm walking, really. Sometimes there'll be a little grayling just in this channel here, but mainly tell you what, it's a long walk this upriver. It's a cracking workout, never mind going to the gym. My quads are strong as they've ever been. Right, it's a lovely little run, this. It's like an S-shaped bender current. It's picture book, really. You've got all the beautiful old trees hanging over the river and lovely riffle. There's dragonflies fluttering around in the summer sun, and it's deep, so I'm just going to get as deep as I dare, and even though it's not too quick here, I'm just going to plop this nymph in there as best I can and just get it into the deep stuff. A little bit too deep. It's coming down now at a fair old pace. I always like when I'm fishing when I'm nymphing. I like some movement in the river. You know, I'm wanting them flies to be tumbling down with the current. See if I can get it across with a bit along the line. It is such a fishy looking run, this. You've got the perfect riffle and then them lovely kind of fast moving white bubbles with just a bit of a shimmy on top of the water. And I've not fished this for a while, but I've had some cracking grayling out of here over the years. Some real beauties. Doesn't seem to hold many fish, this little run, but the fish it does hold seem to be a little bigger. It's just a case of working the fly, keep on plugging away, representing it, trying different lines of current, and then just watching that indicator mono, and feeling the sense, feeling the rod tip, feeling the flies, and keeping in contact with them, making sure that if any fish takes those flies, you're going to know about it and you'll feel it. Keep on moving upstream. Yep, we're in. Oh, it's off. That felt another nice fish. Oh, gutted. That was a really subtle take. Just in the head of the riffle. That felt nice, it really did. You can always tell by the head shake. Nice slow banging head shake from side to side, and not kind of scrappy and going off at a million miles an hour. You know it's going to be a bigger fish. Now, there's always a chance there's another one, so I'm just going to run it down a similar zone. It was such a subtle take, that. It really was. In hindsight, I could have struck into that a bit more. As soon as I felt the fish, I probably could have followed through a little bit. And it just took me by surprise. Well, I'm pleased today because it was always going to be tough, and the last podcast was a really hard work trying to fish that streamer. The fish just were not up for it at all after that heat wave. So it's nice to be starting to get into a few again, even on bad conditions. But if there's any way you're going to get them, it's going to be your own nymphing, really. It is such an effective way, and some people don't like it. I love it. It's great fun, exciting. The fish put a real bend in the rod, and even a half-pound wildie puts up a great fight on this light gear. So it's a win for me every time. I'm just going to fish right up into this riffle, just in case there's anything lurking at the top. The river looks a bit coloured here. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just me. Right, not a huge amount of this left to fish. Just going to fish into some of this quick water. Let's see if there's anything at the top. Right in the fast riffle now. Again, it only takes a little rock or a little depression in the stream bed, and you'll get a grayling or a little trout just hiding there, picking off bits of food as they zip past in this lovely cool, well oxygenated water. Yep, we're in. It feels like a trout. Oh, it's a grayling. That was a really scrappy little fight, that. I thought it was going to be a trout, but it's a grayling. Come on. There we go. Nice fish, probably 3/4 pound, something like that. And that's actually taking the little mini squirmy, which is lovely. Super. Right, let's see if there's another one down there. That was in the very, very fast water. I bet there's a few fish just in here. So the takes have been very, very subtle today. They've been gentle, nothing's been smashing the fly. Sometimes when you're fishing this method, you'll feel a real kick and a thump on the rod tip. But it's been very subtle. You just feel the slightest tension in the tip of the rod, and then it's been a case of tightening and feeling the fish and then following through. Well, I'll just finish the rest of this riffle, and then there's another couple of nice runs further up, so I'll have to get out and walk up the field and go and have a look, see if we can find anything down there. Hopefully I can catch a wild rainbow, and then I've had all three species from the river, which would be nice. Lovely and cool on my legs though, it's a blessing, it really is. And I have to say, it's actually gone a little bit hazier, which wasn't forecast, so that'll only improve things. Alright, let's wind in, walk up the meadow and then go to the top pool. So yeah, it's definitely going to be hazier, so just up in the meadow now and have a walk up. There's a nice run at the top and a couple of other little streamy bits that's worth a poke. The rest of this is all quite still and deep and silty. I bet there's a few chub in here actually and knocking around in these stiller pools. Lovely. Well, I've walked all the way up to the very, very top of the beat. I can fish here, and this is a nice run. It's, I don't know, 30 or 40 feet of deep but quickish water. So I'm just going to start tossing the nymph in here, quite close to the bank. I'm actually fishing off the bank here, very close in the channel here, and just get it running down under my feet. And then I'll start working the fly out a little deeper. It's worth just exploring this first. I'm glad there's no one here, because it's a real slog walking up them meadows with wet wading boots on. And there's only this bit really that's worth nymphing. So if I got here and there's someone else here, I would have had to walk all the way back. But push through the undergrowth, and then there's no one here, which is nice. Alright, let's take a few paces up. You can just see some prints in the mud here from the deer that have been down for a drink. You're seeing them quite a bit at the minute. I would have thought maybe a few of the little streams and ditches that they drink from have dried out, so they've been venturing down to the river a bit more. Still from the bank, just tapping it out and It's a nice pace of water, this. It's just quick enough. And there's quite a few willows just overhanging the river as well, giving a bit of shade, and nice features, different depths and different flows of current. Oh, just snagged up there. It feels fairly solid, so I'll wade out and see if I can just grab it. Again, normally you couldn't really wade out here with it being, when it's at a normal level, it'd be a little bit too deep. But with this low water, it's opened up a bit, a few of these deep water pools to actually get in and wade a bit, which is nice to be able to explore a few different bits of river. I don't want to wade too much into the river, just can it cause too much of a disturbance. Try and keep to the edge. Yeah, it's definitely shallower than it normally is. Normally you'd never touch bottom here with your nymphs, and just getting the odd bump here on the bottom. Yep, we're in. What have we got on here? Little grayling. Just a tiddler. Here we go. Slip it back. Good. That's 2 grayling and a trout. And that was on the pheasant tail that time. Actually, the deeper channel is actually quite close to the bank here. If I can get out in the middle of the river, I can probably cover both bits here. Talk, it's quite hypnotic, this type of fishing. I'm fishing away and plopping these nymphs upstream and almost forgetting I'm recording a podcast here. My current here is zipping down, and it's kind of coming at a pace. There's a riffle, but this one's under a tree as well, so I'm just head towards this tree, these tree branches, and I'm hoping that's where there'll be a fish. There we go. Oh, that really was a hard, heavy take. That does feel like a trout. Yeah, it's a wild rainbow. Lovely. So I've had the trio, the grayling, the wild rainbow, and the brownie. You could tell that was a wild rainbow. Really, it was. All the other takes have been quite subtle, and that absolutely mullered it. Slipping back there. Lovely. I'll just have a few more casts in here, see if there's another one. Wasn't big, but it was chubby, and it's scrap like anything. Great fish to play. Yep, and again. Little grayling this time. Oh, I'm having a great afternoon. I was really expecting it to be a lot tougher, but these fish are feeding really well. And I'm getting into a few. You can even see further upstream some fish starting to rise in the slack water. It's beyond where I can fish, but it just shows you they are feeding there, isn't there? Well, I think that's probably me done. It's been a surprising afternoon actually, and nice to get into a few fish after the blank on the last podcast. So thank you again so much for listening. And for more information on our flies and tackle, it's shop.peaksflyfishing.com, or for tuition and guiding, it's www.peaksflyfishing.com. Until next time, thank you and bye bye.